Thank you. Now I'll throw it open to the floor for questions. Given the fact we have people on the phone and also people outside and so on, we don't have roving microphones, so do me a favour. I know it may be challenging for a lot of you, cough cough, but be loud with your questions please. It'll just help everybody hear what's getting asked and what the answers will be. So have any questions?
Liz, does this open up the door for an expansion of what we see in this facility?
Well, I think it opens up the door for us to explore more treatment options, acknowledging that this approach is legitimate. And so we'll be meeting with VCH and talking about other ways of expanding this type of service and looking at other potential sites. And yeah.
What may that mean? What more services could you offer?
Well, just the acknowledgement that treating somebody with addiction while they're still actively using opens the opportunities for us to partner on more creative approaches to bringing people in. So currently, when somebody comes into InSite, there's an opportunity for them to go from here upstairs, where they can go into on-site, where they can get detox, and then similarly, we have other partnerships with health where we are offering people support for their antibiotic maintenance if they have infections, but they're still actively using while they're accessing those sorts of support. So I think it just means we can continue to be creative, knowing that the direction that we're going in is legitimate. And also, similarly, of course, exploring things like keeping more drug users off the street and safe.
Are you hoping this will pave the way for other sites to open in different provinces of the country?
Obviously, we hope that other cities who have an interest in approaching the addicts in their home communities with the similar philosophical perspective and a similar approach will go through the same sorts of protocols that we had to go through here to apply for an exemption. And we think that there are other communities who've certainly been in touch with us over the last number of years saying that they would wait until this ruling to decide what to do, and that they were very much excited that if we had a positive outcome that they would start looking at the implications of what that meant for them.
If I could just comment on that, the Urban Public Health Network, which represents the medical health officers of Canada's 17 largest cities, has endorsed supervised injection as an evidence-based public health practice. So I think you will see members of that network very interested in this decision. I think that it's important to note two things. First of all, the evidence supports supervised injection. It doesn't have to be offered in a supervised injection site. Getting back to Dr. Montana's comments, that if we think of the history of needle exchange, which began in Vancouver with a single fixed site needle exchange, and now has been incorporated into the services that we offer to people suffering from addictions, you can envision how we might do the same with supervised injection in the future. Those are discussions we need to have, but I think you will see interest from public health colleagues across Canada who will do the necessary groundwork to ensure they have the same kind of local support need within their communities and evidence that this may be a benefit to their populations and may well apply for exemptions in their communities.
Dr. Daly, does this mean that you're looking at perhaps having roving supervised injection programs?
I think we haven't had those discussions yet. We've been waiting for this ruling, but I would like to have a discussion about incorporating this harm reduction practices into the services we offered. When we opened this site, we added on other health services. You can imagine that we could do the opposite. That there are healthcare facilities that provide services to clients who suffer from addictions. This could be an added treatment option, an added option for those clients in those settings, in the same way that we've incorporated needle exchange into a number of other sites. But we still have to have those discussions. My point was that you don't need to have a supervised injection site. You can look at the practice of supervised injection, and the College of Nurses of BC have already indicated it's a legitimate nursing practice, harm reduction practice, and incorporate that into other services.
How surprised are you to the resistance to InSite? That it's been 8 years before you finally got this decision.
Well, first of all, I think that locally we've got tremendous support for InSite. It's been a tremendous success with support from all levels of government, from the community, from the general population. And I think actually, as Liz and Dr. Montana pointed out, there's been support from academics, from public health professionals everywhere. I'm happy that the legal battle is over. I know there were some philosophical differences around InSite, but by and large we consider that this site has been well supported. In terms of the evidence, I commented to somebody that in my nearly 20 years of public health practice, I have yet to see an initiative that has the volume and the quality of evidence behind it as InSite. We have our colleagues to thank at the BC Centre of Excellence for much of that work.
Dr. Montana, you were quite passionate right when the decision came down about the message that sent to the government. Can you speak to that?
Well, I mean, I think that I said it, maybe not quite as vehemently a minute ago. The bottom line is quite clear. The Harper government has been working overtime to try to stop us from moving forward in the harm reduction arena. They have a great deal of difficulty trying to embrace the populations that we're working with. And the Supreme Court of Canada has basically sent them a message that what they've been doing is unconstitutional. Over the last decade or more, we have been successful at working in a collaborative fashion with the provincial government, who, by the way, has been unwavering on their support to the centre and a number of other partners in moving some of these programs forward, to the point that at some instances I was concerned that we were creating a significant political liability for them, and despite that they stood behind us at all times, recognizing that we were on the right track. You should know that we run a serious HIV/AIDS organization in this province, contrary to what Tony Clement would have told you some years ago, and we're committed to controlling HIV and AIDS, and we became involved in the issue of drug addiction because it was a necessary intermediate step for us to achieve that goal. We have a Made in Canada strategy. Through expansion of treatment, we have decreased HIV in this country to a level that has never been seen anywhere in this country, by greater than 60%, and the rates continue to go down, both morbidity, mortality, and HIV transmission. And InSite and related initiatives play a central pivotal role on us being able to deploy this strategy. Again, the Harper government doesn't want to talk to us about HIV and AIDS because it's outside of the radar screen. These are those people that don't belong to their constituencies, and we have to change that. And this ruling is a fundamental first step to bring to their attention the fact that addicted individuals are Canadians, they need to be cared for, and they need to be supported, and harm reduction is part of that strategy.
How do you expect the government to react to this decision?
Well, I really cannot predict what the Ottawa is going to do about this. I recognize that we live in an environment where they have a majority and they may have legislative means to their disposal to do whatever they so choose. Whatever they do, they need to be very careful because there is a Supreme Court of Canada ruling now on the table, and they will be creating a huge liability for themselves. So my advice to Ottawa is let's get on with the show, let's move on to the next phase, let's accept the fact that we have now a ruling, and let's do what is best for Canadians and embrace the evidence.
What makes you think they're going to listen?
You know, they're not going to listen to me, that's for sure. But they better listen to the Supreme Court of Canada. I mean, the wording in this document is actually quite compelling. I mean, how do you like to be told by the Supreme Court of Canada that you were unconstitutional? This looks like my 6th grade teacher telling me that you were out of order and that you have to actually comply with the order of the court. I mean, we got to find an answer, and whether they like it or not, that's the only way forward.
Do you, Dr. Montan, do you foresee a day when people will come in here and be given their drugs, like pharmaceutical heroin? I mean, would that be safer?
Absolutely. In fact, I had that discussion with the RCMP around the issue of InSite, and they actually expressed their concern that individuals who are under the supervised injection environment, they are still injecting substances that are uncontrolled. And they actually have indicated to me that they would be a lot more comfortable if we would have fully medically supervised dispensing and supervision of the drugs. This is a discussion that has to happen. I remind you that our colleagues at UBC conducted a randomized clinical trial that showed that medicalized supervised heroin injection in this city was associated with a much better outcome than the alternative. So we have the evidence. That paper, by the way, was a leading paper in the New England Journal of Medicine a number of years ago, and unfortunately, when the clinical trial was terminated, the Harper government pulled the plug on that initiative and did not allow the continuation of that initiative. So that's a discussion that has to happen. There is absolutely no doubt that that's a very relevant question, and it's something that we need to investigate further. It's been done elsewhere around the world, and there is no reason. All the evidence demonstrates that that's a very wise next step for us to consider.
But what would be the opposition from the government on that? What would be clinical heroin? Like, where would you draw that line?
You know, it's very simple. I mean, a lot of the people that are injecting here are injecting with substances that are available through prescription, that they can be available in a quantified, purified, and with a pharmaceutical grade that will give me and you and them the confidence that there are no contaminants and toxins, if you want, in the substance. I remind you, recently there was an epidemic of overdoses out there, and the police, the Vancouver police, asked addicts in the community to refer themselves to InSite so that their drug supplies could be checked. You know, I'll be honest with you, we have no way of looking at the powder or the stuff that people are going to inject to be sure what is in there, because most of the time this is not pharmaceutical grade compound. So quite obviously, if you know what people are injecting, it would be much safer, and the Naomi trial has shown that. So, in fact, there is a follow-up trial being organized at the present time. It's called Salome. It's approved for the initiation here in this city. So I see this as a very next question that we're going to have to wrestle with. And the evidence is there. It's a question of when and how we're going to be prepared to embrace it for implementation.